All right. Who had the over under at 3 days until I started making more F1 fantasy content? What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of F1 Fantasy Pole Position. It is Wednesday, December 10th. My name is Euan. On today's episode, I'm just going to give you a 2025 F1 Fantasy season review of my team, of some stats, of the world number one. We're going to go through it all here in the next 10 to 15 minutes. Going to be a short one today. I promise I'm eventually going to take a break. I think, but hopefully you guys are all doing well. We've had all the finalized scores, all the results are out. So let me know in the comments below where you finished this season, how you did in your mini leagues, global rankings, what goals you achieved, which goals you missed, and which ones we are all going to hit in 2026. Because we're going to get back on this horse. We're going to get in the new car and we're going to drive to success in 2026. So I am already looking forward to it, but we're going to get into a little bit of a season review as we look back on what an incredible season all of us had. All right, starting off with some stats here. The stats monsters, points, positions gained, overtakes. Already just going to warn you a little bit. Positions gained and overtakes, a little bit of loosey-goosey math on my end because I did add sprints and Grand Prix all in together, so we'll see how this all goes. But points, Max Verstappen led the whole thing, 776 points. In the top five were Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, George Russell, Charles Leclerc as the top five. Charles Leclerc, top five. Pretty impressive from him. Positions gained, 79 for Ollie Behrman. Next was 72, Esteban Ocon, and then 69, Lewis Hamilton, and then tied for fourth were Lance Stroll and Nico Hülkenberg. They probably got helped in this by a huge Abu Dhabi Grand Prix because both of them were absolute monsters on the Yas Marina circuit. And then overtakes, 128. Albon 128 for Ollie Behrman. Sorry, just passing right over his name. Alex Albon at 118, Stroll 109, Hamilton 107, and Hülkenberg 106. I should have looked this up, but I wonder how many of these have been affected by what huge performances Stroll, Hamilton, and Hülkenberg all had in Abu Dhabi. But yeah, points, position gained, and overtakes here on the first slide. Next slide here, if I can get it over. There we go. Fastest lap, driver of the day, and DNF. So fastest lap was shared between Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. They both had 6 of the fastest laps this season. And then it was Antonelli, Russell, and Verstappen in the top 5 with 3 apiece. Driver of the day, Max Verstappen ran away with this. Like, if we were saying that in 2023 and 2024 F1 Fantasy, no one would believe us. He came away with 8 driver of the days this season. Just phenomenal work from the Dutchman, who came up just short of going for a 5th straight World Drivers' Championship. Bortoleto, Antonelli, Hamilton, and Leclerc all tied at 2 in the top 5 there for driver of the day. And then DNFs, the teacher and the student, Fernando Alonso and Gabriel Bortoleto, both share the title here with 5 DNFs each in 2025, followed by Lawson, Sainz, Albon, and Antonelli, all at 4. Going over to some value plays here, the money moves. Value increase for the season, George Russell went up 2.8 million, and that led all F1 fantasy assets. And then Behrman, Piastri, and Verstappen were all tied at 2 million. Once again, I'm just going to say it's a little bit of red flag, loosey-goosey math. I'm not going to leave you guys without some loosey-goosey math, but in a weird, like, kind of twist, F1 has not actually applied the budget gains or losses for the final race this season, which I know it doesn't matter, but it still kind of matters. So thanks to F1 Fantasy Tools for doing that, because that makes these accurate. As for the constructor value increase, Haas 8.8 million again. I'm pretty sure that's back-to-back years that Haas has finished in the top 2. I think maybe Ferrari pipped them to the title last year, but Haas just always rising. So maybe something we have to remember for 2026. And then Racing Bulls at 8.4 million and Williams at 6.7. Williams went from a B tier to an A tier. I don't think any of us saw that coming in F1 Fantasy this year. So something to keep in mind. Maybe they'll be at the upper of the B tier next season if they keep the pricing system the same. Points per million for the driver was Ollie Behrman at 1.19, and then Verstappen 1.12, Piastri 1.09. Once again, that's also going to be different than F1.com. This is from F1 Fantasy Tools because I think they do their maths different. So loosey-goosey maths from all over the map in the season review episode right now. And then points per million for the constructor, McLaren 2.21, Mercedes 1.94, and Haas 1.87. So those are kind of your bang for your buck assets. Like you can see right above me, if you want to support the channel in the offseason a little bit, get on poll, become a member on YouTube. There's going to be members only episodes, and there's going to be prize leagues in 2026, and then there'll probably be some preseason episodes and all that stuff. Like, not all of them, probably not even a lot of them at all, but most of it will be free. But if you want extra F1 fantasy content, don't forget to sign up for the YouTube membership program. And then above me, you've got January 26th is the first preseason testing, and then those are my final scores in F1 fantasy this year, finished in the top 1500. Going over to F1 Fantasy Dream Team, they did this last season, and I'm glad they brought it back because it is something it's something interesting to look at. So this is what's the best team you could have gotten with 100 million at the start of the season, and if you didn't make any moves. So it was Russell, Behrman, Ocon, Hadjar, Bortoleto with McLaren and Mercedes. That would have been the best team you could have scored with 100 million in Australia. That would have scored you 4,636 points, which is actually not all that great. But what I've done the past 2 years now is I kind of apply some of the chips to this team and then kind of try to work it out. So I gave them Limitless in Monaco for plus 222 points. I gave them the no negative in Silverstone because Hadjar and Bortoleto and Antonelli for Mercedes all DNF there. Final fix in Brazil was Bortoleto to Lawson. That would have been a move you could have made after the sprint race because Bortoleto wasn't going to make qualifying. So you maybe would have brought in a lower owned asset like Liam Lawson, and that would have worked, plus 37. Autopilot in Mexico was just what's the best race for this team to do that, and that would have been Russell or in Mexico because then you would have had Behrman's huge day, and then the 3X in China because there weren't really a lot of opportunities to play that here with Russell and Behrman again, where Russell did quite well and Behrman scored about 20 points, I think. And even with all that added in, they would have scored 5,052 points with the chips. And that's well outside the top 10K from what I can tell. Let me know, are you anywhere close to 5,052 points in your final standings, or is one of your T2 or your T3 teams around that mark? Because from my best guess, it's outside the top 10K because my T3 team was about 8K, and I think I had about 100 or 200 more points than this team. So that's why I kind of guesstimated, once again, with the loosey-goosey math, that this team would have been outside the top 10K. That's way different from what would have happened last season when they had this team. They did like Leclerc, Piastri with McLaren and Ferrari. And I think when I added all the chips in, it would have been in like the top 500 or 600 teams. So it was a lot more difficult this year to have like a set and forget team in F1 Fantasy, but just something interesting that they put together that I always like to look at. Going over to Chip City here, kind of looking at the season review, obviously, we've got to talk about chips. That was such a huge swing a lot of the time in F1 Fantasy. So on the screen here, if you listen on the podcast side, this is a pretty in-depth table. So I would highly suggest you flip over to the YouTube channel, F1 Fantasy Pole Position, and you can see all this. So on the table here, I've got all 6 chips, Limitless, Extra DRS, No Negative, Autopilot, Final Fix, and then the race used for the top 500 teams, the race that was used by the world number 1 that won F1 Fantasy, and their result, and then the race used by me, and then my result in comparison. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get through this slide, so bear with me here. So for the Limitless chip, in the top 500, 48.6% of the teams used it in Monaco, and 23% of the teams used it in Miami. The world number 1 used it in Miami, scored 374 points, and that was 97 more than their original team. You can get all this info, by the way, if you sign up for the premium product on f1fantasytools.com. You can use promo code Euan50 and you can still get 50% off your first month. But honestly, this data is so invaluable. Content creator like me, if you're an engaged manager, that sort of stuff, like this kind of data is going to help me out in 2026 tremendously. So that's why I would just recommend signing up for f1fantasytools.com, their premium product. And then in Monaco, I used my Limitless, and that was plus 171 there. So when it comes to the Limitless chip, I actually beat the world number 1, which I think that's the only time I'm going to say that because I have another slide coming up, and oh my days, the data from that is eye-opening. Extra DRS, top 500 used it in Qatar, 54%, and then in Austin, 24.2%. World number 1 used it in Qatar, got 444 points for an extra 101 points. And I also used it in Qatar for 352 points, and it was only an extra 71 for my team. So they absolutely nailed the extra DRS chip. So great job by you. No negative. it was all over the spot. So 35% of the top 500 used it in Miami, 23% of them used it in Brazil, and 22% of it used the chip in Belgium. The world number one actually used it in Monaco, and it fell flat for them. They scored 241 points that weekend, but they only got +1 on the no negative chip. Very similar to a lot of us that used it in Belgium. 22% of the top 500 also joined us there. 281 points for myself in Belgium during a sprint weekend, but only got +4. Do you remember that? It was supposed to be raining all weekend, and it did rain during the main race, but they delayed it, and then they went the safety car route. So frustrating. So that chip fell totally flat, just like the autopilot chip. So 21.8% of the global top 500 used it in the Netherlands, 19.4% in Brazil, and 18.6% in Las Vegas. The world number one used it in Mexico, fell flat, that he already had the correct 2X, and I used it in Brazil when I had, who'd I have? Lando Norris and George Russell, I believe, and I also fell flat with 295 points. Final fix, pretty much across the board, was used in Azerbaijan. 49.2% of the global top 500 used it in Azerbaijan. So did the world number one, so did myself, and we both went up 106 points as a result of going from Oscar Piastri to Max Verstappen. Piastri DNFs, Verstappen wins the race, and I'm pretty sure takes home fastest lap and driver of the day that day, or maybe Carlos Sainz took home driver of the day because he got the podium. And then wildcard, 26.2% of the teams used it in China, 17.8% of the global top 500 used it in Singapore. The world number one actually used it in Monza. 229 points, went up 72 over the original squad with the transfers. So I believe they used 4 free transfers that weekend. So they saved 20 points right off the bat from not taking any penalties there, but they also improved their squad by 52 points. But it actually cost their team 0.6 million. But that was about, the 16th or 17th race of the season. So budget building was not as big of we were starting to switch a little bit into more point scoring mode by then. However, for my team, I used it in China. I scored 239 points that weekend. It only gained me 8 points over the remainder of my team. I saved 20 points from the 2 extra transfers I used, but it actually cost my original team 12 points, but I gained 3.2 million in budget, and that was the most important thing that weekend. So another lesson to learn is in wildcard, if you get it wrong in the first race of the season, do not be afraid to rip that wildcard. However, saying that, the teams that were able to hold on to the wildcard for these last 5, 6, 7 races had a really big power play over the rest of us that used it early in the season. I think Formula Fantasy Hub Rob used it, and I believe Porsche F1 used it in Singapore as well. 17.8% of the global top 500 used it around that time, and they were able to flip all the way into a strong 2A build. I think maybe some of them had Verstappen and Russell, that kind of thing, before a lot of us could catch up there. So while it was nice and it was necessary for my squad to rip it super early in the season, having it later in the year was a big power play. And there were even some teams that had it for the final race of the season, and they could just watch 3 free practices worth of data and pick the best B-tier drivers, the best A-tier drivers, the best constructors, and not have to worry about any transfer penalties. Such a luxury to have that wild card at the end of the season. But that was a pretty good overview of Chip City. Now going on to me versus the world number one. And this is also some data you can find on f1fantasytools.com. Fantastic website. Transfers, good/bad, overall transfer impact, positive events, and negative events. And oh my goodness, there are some eye-opening things on here. So my team used 53 transfers this season. So you get 2 free transfers every week. 24 times 2 is 48. I used 5 extra transfers. I took 50 points in hits this year. The world number one used 44 transfers, which is 4 less than you get in allocation, but took 2 extra, which means they took hits at that point. So they took -20 over the course of a season. Transfers good and transfers bad, that means positive events happen to your team or you made the right choice kind of thing. Of my 53 transfers, 37 of them were good and 16 of them were bad. And of the world number one, I had to double check this. Of the world number one's 44 transfers, every single one of them was good for their team. So absolutely phenomenal job by them picking making the correct transfers every single week per F1 Fantasy Tools team analyzer data. Overall transfer impact for me, 449 points in the positive. So not bad overall. I feel like that's a pretty good way to, but the world number one, plus 809, plus 809 points on their transfers. Like, oh my days, that is a lot of good happenings from their transfers. Positive events, which is fastest lap driver of the day and fastest pit stops, I scored 41 out of the 103 possible fastest pit stops and all that stuff, which is 470 points out of a possible 1,165. And the world number one, just a little bit more than me, 500 points, 43 of 103. So not a lot of difference there. Negative events, I've had a pretty big swing against them there. 23 of 142 possible negative events, which are DNFs and DQs. So I lost 465 points on those out of a possible 2780, whereas the world number one had 15 negative events and only lost 305 points over the course of the season. So I think I was quite lucky with only 23 negative events. Let me know in the comments below how many positive events and how many negative events you kind of ran into this season in F1 Fantasy. But just the transfers, I can't get over this. Every single transfer the world number one made, the winner of F1 Fantasy in 2025, every single one of them was good, and that added 809 points to this team's overall score. I was looking at it earlier. The world number one beat my squad by about 500 points, and you can see, like, what is this, 360 of them right off the bat come from transfers alone. That is wild. So great job by the world number one. If you're watching, comment below. Let us know what you kind of did to get to that fantastic strategy where all 44 of your transfers were good. That is insane. I honestly can't believe it. And finally, cheers to a great 2025. Like, ended up 1485 in the world, fell a little bit short of my goal of top 1000, where after Australia, I had the drive to the top 1000, but I'm still very proud of the season overall and of the content this channel was able to produce, and engaging with y'all and all the live streams and all the late nights, early mornings, always reacting on X and getting to every comment on every live stream. Like, that has been a really big achievement. I've been very proud of that, and hopefully you guys have appreciated it. I know you guys appreciate it, actually, but hopefully we will all be back for 2026. But that'll do it for today's episode of F1 Fantasy Pole Position. Season review, it's a wrap. We are on to 2026. I believe I'm scheduled to do something with some other content creators at some point in the future, so keep your eyes peeled for that. That should be quite a lot of fun if that gets off the ground, which I think it will be. Should be quite soon. But yeah, 2026 is pretty much right around the corner. I think it's like 47 days from the time of this going live. So yeah, take a little break. I know I'm going to take a little break over the holidays, but then I'll be back probably early January, if not late December. We'll see how it goes with some more F1 fantasy content. But don't forget to like the video. I forgot to ask at the top, and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you are new around here. But if you're watching my season review, I'm going to guess that you're subscribed to F1 Fantasy Pole Position. And if you're not, that would be a great holiday gift, another subscription, or you can sign up for the YouTube membership program to have access to my power rankings and early access to videos like this all the way from now, all the way through the 2026 season. But that will do it. If I don't talk to you again on this channel, happy holidays, happy new year, all that fun stuff. Take time, spend them with your family, and just have a little bit of relaxation before it's livery launch season, and then we get some testing for the 2026 regulations. I cannot wait, but hopefully you guys are all doing well. And once again, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you next time.